6 months ago, political pundits and establishment insiders didn't think we could pull this off. Did you ever show them? Yeah.
We are resisting the xenophobia that's coming out of D.C. We're resisting any conversation that says we have to go backwards. We win with a message of progress.
I am the candidate of the everyday Texan. That's right. And I will never, never, never stop working for you. Thank you very much.
Tuesday's historic primary wins for women in Georgia, Kentucky, and Texas may be the scene setter for November's midterms. With diverse progressive nominees like Stacey Abrams, Lupe Valdez, and Amy McGrath on the ballot, do Democrats now have a better chance of taking over Congress and even some red states in November? Joining me now to discuss is Howard Dean, former governor of Vermont and former chair of the DNC, and back with me, Karine Jean-Pierre and Jason Johnson. All right, Howard Dean, let me start with you. Democrats won in Arkansas. The Democrats who won, I should say, in Arkansas, Kentucky, Georgia, where Stacey Abrams won, Lupe Valdez, who's running for Texas governor, Gina Ortiz, who's running for the 23rd district in Texas, and Lizzie Fletcher, who's running for the 7th district in Texas. So you have a bunch of diverse, progressive candidates, lots of women winning this past week, Tuesday. There we go. We're looking at it right there. What does that actually mean for November? Does it mean Democrats are in good shape? Does it mean it's going to inspire more turnout? What does it mean?
It means all of those things, and it also means that a change that was inevitable in American politics is now happening and getting faster and faster. Let me take 1 second to thank the other Stacey Evans. As soon as Stacey Abrams won, Stacey Evans was on Twitter congratulating her and giving her support. That is a really important thing to do, and we saw a lot of that in these elections. So I think we're in great shape. We're unified. Stacey Abrams' theory of the case, I think, is the right theory of the case. She believes that instead of doing what we used to do, which is to sort of placate the conservative whites and hope we get enough of their votes and get our African-American and Hispanic base out, that's not the way to do it. The way to do it is to excite the daylights out of people about a new candidate, bring everybody together, and run for what you believe in. And I think we've got the right candidate. I think she's terrific.
Well, Jason Johnson, you've been covering that Stacey versus Stacey race pretty extensively for The Root. You called Stacey Abrams' campaign the Hogwarts school for black girl magic. You have to explain that.
I don't think I did say that. I think that's somebody else's call.
No,
I'm sorry.
Jason said it.
I'm remote, so I couldn't say it.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, Jason said
it. You just saw, Joe, you just saw it in the last segment. Like, when you can say that I went into $200,000 worth of debt, taking care of my parents, taking care of family members and everything else like that, and flip that into something that ingratiates you to voters, that's black girl magic, okay? Like, that is something that single women across America can understand. What single professional women don't understand that when you may be the best and most consistent breadwinner in your family, those are the kinds of debts you go into. But I think what's key, this is what's really important about Georgia and why I think a lot of people are excited about the Abrams campaign. They picked up a new strategy. It's like, the former governor just said, it wasn't just let's try and get conservative whites. They went into counties that had small numbers of minority voters and put them from 2% turnout to 10% vote. She won 152 out of 159 counties. Some of those counties had no brown people. But when you talk about issues like, hey, they're going to close your rural hospitals, when you talk about financial issues, you can be a candidate that everybody can be happy with. And if that pattern is taken to other Democratic campaigns across the state, they'll be very, very successful this fall, and Abrams won't just be an outlier.
Let's go to you, Karine Jean-Pierre, because we know black women are going to turn out. They turn out.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Black women vote. She's going to get 98%, who knows percentage of it. Yep. But how does she then get out the other sort of X factor women's vote? White women's votes tend to go mostly to Republicans. They even did in Alabama. And so she has to eat into that somehow. What are the issues that Stacey Abrams can use to get past that usual ceiling among white voters? Is it Medicaid expansion? What do you think it is?
Well, here's the thing, the amazing, just going back to what Dr. Johnson here just talked about with Georgia and how people turned out. It was amazing. I mean, she won by 76%. And if you look at the counties, well over 200 counties, she did well in places where people didn't think she would do well in very white rural areas. And you know what Stacey did? She used, so here's the thing about Democrats right now running in 2018 is that we are on the right side of issues. The economy, the tax cuts that the Republicans did for the wealthy, like that is completely unpopular. Health care, protecting health care. Republicans tried to take health care away from 32 million people. We are on the right side. And what she did is she went into those rural areas and said, hey, guess what? Republicans are going to try and take away your health care. We want to protect Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. She actually had really a nice amount of issues, a menu of issues to talk about between jobs and education. She talks about education a lot, too. And it resonated with people. If you really, I mean, I think she lost maybe 4 or 5 counties only. And that is, I think she already has the formula there. Now it's a numbers game. Yeah. She has to go back out there, knock on the doors, do the grassroots, register people to vote, really go double down on women issues, talk to women, young people, really look at Alabama, look what Doug Jones did in Alabama, and try to replicate that, because that will be a win. That is a winning formula for her.
Yeah, and I'm going to go to Mr. 50-State Strategy. We call him Hodo, Howard Dean, and I want to broaden it out beyond Georgia. We had in Kentucky, you had Amy McGrath beat the preferred DCCC candidate, even though they said they didn't really endorse him, Jim Gray. You have in Texas, Lupe Valdez. I want to talk a lot more about her. 53-46, like a pretty decisive win for her, and she'd be the first Latina woman governor, LGBT governor. She's got lots of opportunities to pick up demographic interest there. You've got in Arkansas, you have Jared Henderson, very decisive win over a candidate named Letitia Sanders. And even in Idaho, you have a progressive Native American woman who won Idaho's Democratic gubernatorial primary. Her name is Paulette Jordan. She'd be the first Native American governor of Idaho. So you have what looks to me like the classic Howard Dean 50-state strategy, Democrats going after red states. Then what do Democrats need to do differently in 2018 that will get them past that low ceiling of turnout among their base that we saw in years like 2010 and 2014?
Well, here's the interesting thing, Joy, about this one. It looks a lot like the victory we had in Virginia, where we had 15 new people coming into the Virginia legislature. That was the first election, I think, in my lifetime where the base looks exactly like the people who got elected. The base of our party are African American, Latino, and women. That's the core base of our party. Well, guess who just took over the Democratic Party in Virginia? Well, this has now gone on all over the country. We're going to lose some of these races. There's no question about it. But what we've done is transform the Democratic Party for the future. We are ready. The Republicans are in deep, deep trouble because they're catering to a group of people who are getting smaller and smaller and smaller every year, and they have a champion who 87% of the people in America, including his base, think is a liar. Well, that is a problem for them.
Yeah. And Dr. Jason Johnson, I'm going to give you the honorific one time. The key, as Howard Dean just said, is black voters. If you go through the states that have the highest numbers, just the raw number of black voters, obviously it's New York first. Florida's up there, but it's a lot of southern states. It's states like North Carolina. It's states like Georgia. It's states like Texas. Why have Democrats been unable to translate that high concentration? Look by percentage. Look at the map. Let's go to this map, because those are the raw numbers. Look at the percents. The South is where the black voters are. Why has it been so hard for Democrats to translate those kind of numbers into what you saw in Alabama and Virginia?
Well, because up until Alabama and Virginia, and this is a lot of people who I talked to in the article you referred when I was down in Georgia, they actually started hiring black women as consultants. I know this is the quiet thing that a lot of Democrats don't want to talk about, but they like spending their money on the same group of Democratic consultants and pollsters and GOTV people who keep failing in the South. And the Abrams campaign said, hey, how about we hire some new consultants? How about we bring black women consultants and strategists and pollsters into the conversation, Latina women, Asian women. When you hire consultants who actually know what they're doing and can get out in the streets and speak to different kinds of voters, you can be successful. And I think this is across the board. You saw some of this in the Clinton campaign, but I think that's where the real difference is. When you have different kinds of strategies, when you have somebody in your ear who's like, look, I understand this demographic, I understand how to turn them out, that's how you can end up being successful. You can't keep keeping the same old people in there and think you're going to have a different result.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey,
Amen. Most important thing that's been said today. Amen.
I seem to recall a certain Barack Hussein Obama hired Karine Jean-Pierre back in the day. That was a smart move.
Yes.
We're for that. All right. Howard Dean, Dr. Howard Dean, Dr. Karine Jean-Pierre. I'm just giving it to her. Dr. Jason Johnson. 3 doctors on the panel today. Thank you very much. Have a great Memorial Day weekend. And up next, a dynamic duo, the star of the royal wedding, Bishop Michael